Hi, everybody! Hi! You guys having a good time? Yeah! You ready to talk to Monica? Yeah! Alright, cool. So just to get started, we're going to get a couple ground rules since this is a Q&A, and we don't have a wireless mic. I'm holding the mic here, so when you guys, we're going to do a line up for the questions. Please let them be questions. Everyone has fantastic stories and stuff, but we want to get as many questions as we can. So please keep your adoration of Monica to at least max 15 seconds. Okay, 30 seconds. And we'll get through as many questions as we can. About 10 minutes before the end of the panel, we'll cap the question line. And 5 minutes before, we will enter the lightning round! So, is everyone excited? Yeah! Okay, let's pretend Monica's not here and we're going to introduce her. And ladies and gentlemen, Monica!
I always feel so weird when I get introduced. I'm like, but it's just me. So weird. So hi guys, my name is Monica Rial. I'm a voice actor. That's why I sound like this. Or maybe it's because I sound like this that I'm a voice actor, but you get it. I just celebrated my 20-year anniversary of voice acting. This weird thing happens as you get older, and I'm sure some of you guys in the audience will feel me on this. I still feel 17. Right? So what ends up happening is you get older, so you don't really feel any different, but at the same time you're like, I can't run laps like I used to. And I certainly can't pull all-nighters anymore because, oh no. But I don't feel any different. So to think that it's been 20 years is absolutely insane. I've been playing Bulma for 10 years. I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. Let's see, some other characters. So there's my Bulma right there. There's Lucy. I play Mira Jane in Fairy Tail. There's my hero folks. I play Suyuasui, Robbie, and my hero. There's a Mayreen. I play Mayreen in Black Butler. And like 600 almost other things. Yeah, I know, I've been doing this for a hot second. I'm currently listed as the most prolific voice actor in the United States, which means that I have voiced more anime than anybody else in the United States, which is so weird. It's very strange, you know, because when you're doing something that you love, it's really true. If you're doing something you love, no matter how hard it is, it doesn't feel like work. You know what I mean? And so I woke up one day and I'm like, holy crap, I'm voicing more anime than anyone. This is weird. And I'm not normally competitive. Shut up, you. That's my friend Justin, I've known forever. I'm not normally competitive, but I am just a few, I want to say like maybe 50 roles behind the #1 seiyuu in Japan. And there's some part of me deep inside that thinks it'd be really, really cool if a little Latina from Texas ended up being the person who voiced more anime than anyone in the world. You know, because everybody's going to expect a Japanese person, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, mira, es yo. Well, I'm going to open it up to questions, you guys, so feel free, if you have a question, like Joe said, line on up. Don't be afraid. You can ask me about anything. It doesn't have to be related to voice acting. As long as it's not gross or too weird. Hello! Hey, bud.
I was wondering, how did you start? How did you get into voice acting?
How did I get into voice acting? It was kind of an accident. No, it was actually just a weird situation. So I started acting when I was 12, really. I mean, I did school plays and stuff, but the first time I remember auditioning for stuff was when I was 12 years old. So I did a lot of theater, started studying, went all through high school doing theater, went into college at the University of Houston studying theater. And when I was in the University of Houston, I was doing Shakespeare, Cymbeline, and I was opposite Jason Douglas, who plays Beerus. He's a fabulous voice actor. He's also in The Walking Dead. He's awesome. But Jason was like, hey, I'm doing this thing, and you should totally audition for it because it's all about these kids that are like saving the world and you sound like a child. And I'm like, that's not a very nice way to put that, but okay. So I auditioned, and I almost didn't because I was scared because I'd never done anything like that before. I was like, you know what, I'll go audition, whatever. If I make a fool out of myself, I make a fool out of myself. And I went and auditioned, and I remember Stephen Foster and Matt Greenfield were the two directors there, and Stephen Foster afterwards was like, so you have like a national commercial on the radio right now? And I was like, oh no, I've never been behind a microphone before. And he's like, what? Are you kidding me? So I thought, okay, I guess I did okay. We'll see what happens. Fast forward to like 2 or 3 months later, Matt Greenfield brought me in for what's called WALA, which is short for With All Actors. So anytime you're watching a scene, you know, and it's like in a schoolyard, and there's all these people talking in the background, like that's all WALA. It's an opportunity for you as an actor to like try out voices that you might want to see what they sound like on mic, you know, without drawing away from what's going on screen. But he kind of tested me. It was like the show called Martian Succession and Deshko. Has anybody seen that? There's 2 of you? That's my very first show ever. And there are these Jovians, these aliens that everybody hates called the Jovians. And so he was like, okay, there's these aliens, they're called the Jovians, you hate them and you want them to go home. And I'm like, okay. He's like, go. We hate you, Jovians, go home. We don't want your kind here. Ah. He's like, okay, that was great. Now do it as a British old woman. Oh, we hate you, Jovians. You need to go home right now. I'm going to put on a pot of kettle if you don't hurry up and go home. And he's like, sure. Now as a little boy. And I was like, okay. So it was literally him just throwing things at me to see if I could do it. Apparently I passed the test. Because then like 2 months later, I was casting Gosserati, and right after that, Generator Gall. And I thought, sweet, I don't have to wait tables while I'm in college. And I thought that was all it was gonna be, and here we are 20 years later. Which is awesome, but I also tell people, because you know, I know there are a lot of people that are aspiring voice actors, and I always tell you guys, keep your options open. When I started acting, I wanted to be on stage. I wanted to be a stage actor on Broadway. That's all I wanted to do. Everything else is stupid. I never want to do film. I only want to be on stage. And then this thing happened. And I almost missed it. And I'm so glad I didn't. So I tell people all the time, leave your options open. Try different things that you might not think you want to do, because you never know. It might be the one thing that just clicks. And when I got into a booth and got comfortable, I was like, oh, this is where I was supposed to be. Like everything I've done, all the training I've done has led me to this spot right now. So just keep your eyes open, try different things. But yeah, it is a little harder now to get involved because it is so competitive, but that doesn't mean that you can't. Just get used to hearing the word no, or not hearing anything actually is more like it. You know, I think Michaela was saying on the panel earlier that for every 250 auditions, you will get 1 callback. Not 1 job, 1 callback. So just know that it takes a while, and you're going to hear a lot of no, but all it takes is that 1 yes. So just stay positive. Thanks, hon. Hello.
Hi.
That was me.
Hi, Monica.
Hi.
I wanted to ask last night at the My Hero Academia panel, but I didn't get a chance to get into the line. I wanted to ask, because I really love the character of Renge from Host Club. Like, she's one of my favorite parts. And I was just wondering, if she went to UA, what do you think her quirk would be?
If Renge went to UA, her quirk would be the ability to annoy everyone out of the room. Like, all she would have to do is go, and all of the like villains are like, oh my god, I'm out. That would be Renge. Either that, or she would like over-explain everything. You know how she likes to tell everybody how to do things and what they're doing and everything? I feel like she'd be like, no, you're doing it wrong. Let me explain to you how you need to do it. This is how it goes. I know that that's your quirk or whatever, but let me tell you how to use your quirk, because you're not doing it right. I think that she would totally take over. Or at least I would like to think she would. That, or she'd either have a powerful motor that just took her everywhere. That's possible too. Good question though, thank you. Hello. How are you, hon? Awesome. Good.
How did you figure out that you wanted to do acting in the first place?
How did I figure out I wanted to be an actor in the first place? I was a ballerina. I know it's hard to believe now. I found cake. Delicious, delicious cake. But I was a ballerina, and when I was 12, I dabbled on stage. You know, I had done like school plays and stuff like that. But when I was 12, I was at a skating rink. This is a really interesting story. 9-year-old me, skating, 9-year-old friend Jose skating, like, was really violent and like threw himself on top of me, and I ended up hurting my arm and hurting my knee. Jose, years later when we were in high school, murdered his parents and put them in the trunk of his car. I'm like, I should have known when he broke my arm that maybe that guy was no good. So he broke my arm and actually tore ligaments in my knee. And then that came back when I was 12, and I had major knee issues, so I knew that being a prima ballerina and being a professional dancer was not an option at that point, unfortunately. So I thought about, what do I love about dance? I love storytelling. I love performing for people. I love getting on stage. I love wearing costumes. I love the makeup. I love the whole vibe of rehearsals and all that stuff. So the more I thought about it, I was like, wait, what if I do theater? It's the same idea, only I actually have to speak. And that's when I realized really quickly, oh, I need to do something about this sound coming out of my face. So when I started doing theater, I realized very quickly
that I had to have a theater voice, and this is my theater voice. So I learned very quickly how to have like really good breath support so that I could do this lower voice. Granted, it does wear my voice out a lot, so if I try to do this for hours on end, even though it sounds really sexy, I can't do it, and I always feel bad because when I meet people, they always look at me like, oh my God, that's her real voice. And I'm like, yeah, oh, you thought this was the real voice. I wish this was the real voice. This voice is as fake as you can get.
But yeah, I really, it was the injury that drew me to theater, but then once I was there, I can't imagine being anywhere else. Thank you. Good question. Hello. Hi.
So, how is it being a woman in voice acting? Like, do you see a difference between how some of your male voice actors are treated versus how you are? Because it's, I don't know if it's really, it doesn't seem to be a male-dominated profession, but it's like...
It's gotten better. I will say that when I started voice acting, it was male-dominated. Like, all of the directors were dudes, all of the producers were dudes, all of the engineers were dudes. So the actresses would come in, but it got really weird whenever you had to do like an ecchi show. Because it's like, oh, it's all these dudes and me, and I have to, oh, this is uncomfortable. And kind of like the fandom, honestly, because when I started going to conventions, it did not look like this. There were far fewer costumes, far fewer ladies, like, if any, at all. Far fewer children. It was mostly just older dudes. Older dudes that sat around talking about anime, which is great. But this has been such a change in the dynamic of conventions and fandom in general, and I think it changed for the good. And that has also been mirrored in our industry. Now we've got tons of kick-ass female engineers, you know, that run the rigs and everything. We've got wonderful ladies that direct. We've got wonderful ladies that ADR script adapt. Like, all over the place. The head of our production at Funimation is a woman. Head of marketing is a woman. So it's like, now we're seeing a much more blended society over there, and that works well. Not that it comes with issues as well, but at the same time, for the most part, I think it works well for everybody. And yeah, and also in anime as a whole, like even on Dragon Ball, a show like Dragon Ball, if you guys remember, like Bulma wanted the Dragon Balls to wish for her boyfriend. That's not exactly the most like, yay, girl power kind of thing to do. But if you watch Super, Bulma has turned into this strong woman, and she is not taking anybody's stuff. Not Beerus, not Frieza, not Cell, not Piccolo, she doesn't care. She's like, I will talk to any of you and I will yell at all of you. So I feel like all of our society, the whole world is starting to go, hey, maybe this whole women thing, maybe they kind of know what they're doing a little. Maybe we should listen to them a little bit more. Maybe they have some productive ideas and stuff. So I'm really happy that that's the case though, because like I tell people all the time, I'm one of those people that I feel like everyone should be equal. It doesn't matter like what color your skin is, it doesn't matter where you come from, what your accent is, what you know, imaginary friends you have, or whatever it is. Like, I feel like everybody should be treated equally, and so I'm very happy that it's moving in that direction. But good question. Hey!
Hi.
How are you?
What are your thoughts on doing Ring from Bourne High School Host Club?
I had a blast playing Rango, and the reason I felt like I kind of cheated, I didn't actually cheat, but so I was the script adapter. Now, when you look at the credits, it's going to say Dorothy Garrett, because I was so worried that the fans were gonna hate the scripts. I was like, I don't want them to know it was me. So I wrote it under the pseudonym Dorothy Garrett. Luckily, you guys didn't hate it, so yay, it was me. But as a result, I got to write all of the episodes before I auditioned. So I had already seen Renge in all of her craziness. So when I went into audition, the audition side, usually what you do is you get a picture of the character, and then like if they transform, like say a Mira Jane, it'll have like her transformation or whatever, and it'll have some lines, and maybe at the bottom it'll have a couple of reactions, so that they can hear, like if it's a character that fights a lot, you might have a few fighting reactions, so the director can make sure that you can do those voices. So Renge had all of these lines, and then at the bottom, all it said was OM for open mouth, which means her mouth is open, laugh. That's all it said, right? So I know that all of my friends were probably going in there like, or even, but I went in there and I was like,
I think she's sort of as a talker trying to get,
she was basically,
high school host club.
yes, she was basically, Renge was, at that time, was my homage to all of the fangirls I had met. Because I was like, you know when you meet like the little, at the time there was like this onslaught of like 9-year-old fangirls, and every time you go to a con it was like, whoa! And so I took that, and it became Renge. So, but yeah, good question. Thank you so much, I love her. Hello! How are you? Awesome.
I'm enjoying the stories of our weeaboo forefathers.
Yeah.
But actually, here, do you have any voice acting tips, like exercises that'll reduce voice tear?
Yeah, okay, the first thing I can tell you by far is to know your instrument, know your voice. You know, if you guys were at the panel earlier, the voice acting panel, Austin was talking about how he did some damage recently, and all that is knowing when it hurts, stop. Like even most places would rather bring you back than actually do any damage to your instrument. The best thing I can tell you is to warm up. For different people that means different things. For me, I put on an app that has like, you know, scales and stuff. One thing that I will tell you that nobody ever thinks about as a voice actor is you have to warm up your lips. Sounds weird, right? But I do lip trills, like to any song whatsoever, but I find that if I don't do that, I end up biting my lips and my cheeks constantly in my sessions, so it just kind of helps. So definitely like doing all the vocal exercises to make sure you're in gear. If it's a particularly challenging voice, I'll sing songs on the radio in that voice, which is really fun when I'm recording studio. Things like that help a lot to get into that voice. Then you want to make sure that you're staying hydrated. A lot of people assume that, you know, they can like just drink a lot of water and they'll be okay, they're indestructible. And it's like, yes, drinking water is great, stay hydrated, but also like I go a step beyond. So I travel with a humidifier everywhere I go so that I don't get too dried out, which will hurt my cords. And I also have a steamer at home. This is when it gets legit. This is what pro voice actors do, and it's not fun. But I sit with a steamer every night and every morning when I'm at home, and it sucks, but it's the best way to hydrate your cords because it'll go directly there. But yeah, that and the Ninjampe Pakwa, which I mentioned earlier, it's a loquat syrup that is actually really good for the throat. Hit me up on social media and I'll give you that name because I don't expect you to remember it. But yeah, all of that stuff combined, but mostly it's knowing your voice and knowing when to say, I'm out. Awesome, thank you. Hey!
Hi. What was it like to start doing Bulma, especially since she's like such an iconic character in the Dragon Ball franchise?
It was scary. That's the best way to put it. Let me get some water real quick. As I'm talking about hydration, I'm like, ooh, I'm parched. So when I went into audition, I had no idea what I was auditioning for. Sabo was just like,
oh, yeah, Monica, hey, if you can swing by Okatron real quick, I got something I want to hear you on. And I was like,
okay, whatever. So I went into Okatron, and I get into the booth, I'm talking to everybody, and this picture of Bulma pops up, and I went, well, that's weird. What's going on? And so that pops up, and he goes, okay, so, you know, there's a show called, and I was like, shut up, Chris. actors moved to New Orleans, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, wait, are you telling me that I'm auditioning for Bulma? He's like, yeah, is that a problem? I'm like, no, sir. Probably the only time I've ever called him sir. I auditioned. You're not technically supposed to talk to anybody about auditions. So I broke a little rule because I did call my brother, who was a huge Dragon Ball fan, because growing up in Spain, we would watch a show called Las Bolas de Dragón. And my brother didn't speak Spanish very well, so I would have to translate it for him. So I played every role in Dragon Ball Z before I ever even came to the United States. When I came through, after my audition, I called my brother Miguel and I was like, okay, you cannot tell anybody because I will have to murder you if you do. He's like, okay. It's like, I just auditioned for Bulma. He's like, what? Just yelling into the phone, and I was like, dude, I didn't get the role. So, I mean, I don't know, but I'm just letting you know. And he goes, you have to tell me. So when I got the role, I called my brother, and it was still one of my favorite moments of all time. Like, as a big sister, there was nothing, I don't want to cry. As a big sister, there was nothing cooler than calling my little brother and being like, hey, you know that thing that you love? I'm a part of it! And listening to him, like, just, oh my God, Monica, that's so crazy, that's so awesome, I'm so proud of you. It's like, even still, like right now, I can just go back to that moment, and I'm like, ah. So Bulma is very important to me and a very big part of my life, and I absolutely love her. And I think that I probably give Raleigh Pickens, our director, a really hard time because I want her to be perfect. And so I'll be like, okay, wait, let me try this. Okay, wait, let me try that. And he's like, Monica, just do the lie. But I'm so enamored with her that I want to make sure that everything's perfect. But thank you, that was a great question.
Thank you.
Ben! Sorry, I get excited.
Hi. You talk about how you found Suyu's voice in My Hero Academia last night.
Yes.
I was wondering, when you voiced Tomoko and Watsuno, did that help you try to find Suyu's voice?
It was very interesting. Like we talked last night at the My Hero panel about how I found Sue's voice, right? Because it's so weird, and how do you even do that? And I explained that I have to it's hard to describe, and I can't really teach you guys how to do it, but if you play around with it, just know, you're squishing the inside, it's almost like you're holding your nose from the inside, right? Like you're kind of squishing it. Imagine making yourself sound nasal, but then you're also squishing your cords together, which kind of gives it that frog kind of feel, because it's hard to do one or the other now. I've been doing Suyu for so long, my body's like, this is how it works. But yeah, Tomoko, actually, when I first worked on Tomoko and Watamote, I was like, oh my God, what voice am I gonna do for her? This is gonna be she's so weird. And so, this kind of nasal equality kind of came on, and she's kind of frenetic and weird. And so that kind of got me into that nasal aspect. So when I came around for Suyu, I was like, oh, what if I take that kind of nasal quality of Tomoko, but then I add kind of the more throaty stuff, and then all of a sudden you have Suyu. And that's how I do all of my characters. You'll find that I'll start with one or another, or I'll find a new voice and I'll use it, and then I'll start combining. And that is the key. If you guys are aspiring voice actors, you have what's called your voice actor tool belt, and those are the voices that you feel really strongly about. You're certain, I can play a little girl, I can play a grown woman, I can do these things, and then you start mixing them together. And that's when it gets fun, because it's like a little cookbook. It's like, okay, I'm gonna take a little bit of Michiko, and a little bit of Tomoko, and a little bit of this, and what you got? And so, yeah, I have a lot of fun coming up with those voices, that's for sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you! Tomoko is one of my all-time favorites.
Hello! Just want to say thank you again for signing my soul.
Yes! I signed his soul. He didn't give it to me, though.
My question was, you got a lot of popularity from characters like Stalking Anarchy for playing characters with such cute little voices, but are really tough and kind of rough around the edges. So I wanted to ask, with characters like Stalking Anarchy and Aisutome from Shinchan, how did it feel to play a character that could be so cute and innocent, but at the same time just go 0 to 60 with all these kinds of lines?
I love it. I tell people at Funimation, I'm like, the weirder, the more psychotic, the more crazy, I love them. Those are my favorites, because those characters are the ones that you really get to delve into and really create something interesting and cool. Aisutome was awesome because when I auditioned for Shinchan, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this little brat. She is a little brat. But getting to do the show and the way that we did it, we had like the line that we knew could go on television. Then we had the line that was like, this might not work for television, but we'll try it. And then there was the, this will never be on television, but it'll make everyone at Funimation laugh. And so if you remember the scene where I is singing a lullaby to Hiro, to Shin's, one of our options, now this shows you when the show was recorded, which was a while back, but one of the options for Icy Tummy for the lullaby was, I'm in love with a stripper, she got it, she got it, she bought it, she's up on that pole and I'm in love with a stripper. And everybody said, did you seriously? And I'm like, it was in the script. Now granted, we'll never be able to use that because copyrights, but everybody at Funimation was like, have you heard Monica sing the stripper song yet? So there's all kinds of golden files at Funimation. But I love playing those little girls, and especially the ones that have a hard edge to them, because I get to play so many sweet, innocent, which is wonderful, and I love my pretty, pretty princesses. But it's nice to have those sweet little sounding voices that have that acerbic quality, that little stingray action. Those are my favorites. Favorites. I like to make people go, oh, how cute. Oh. Especially with Mammy and Stocking, I have to be careful because a lot of times little kids will come through my line and I'm like, hey, let me give you a free card. Which one would you like? And I guess because it looks, her coloring is so similar to like some of the My Little Pony stuff. All these little girls are like, I want that one. I'm like, no.
No.
Anyone but that one. So then I'm like trying to push Show by Rock. I'm like, look, this is a nice show. I want that one. But I just have to explain to the parents, like, just don't tell them what it's about. They cannot watch the show. But good question. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Who are your top 3 favorite characters in the Dragon Ball franchise?
Besides Bulma, of course.
Yeah.
That would be a little weird for me to be like, Bulma, Bulma, and Bulma. Okay, so my top 3 characters in the Dragon Ball universe. Vegeta. And I might be a little partial because he is my anime husband, but at the same time, I feel like he's got some really great character development. Right? And especially if you look at Super, like, he's actually turned into a pretty decent dad. Yeah. Who'd have thought? And he actually cares about his wife. What a weird thought. So I feel like he's had the best character development. Other than Vegeta, oh jeez, I love Frieza, even though I hate him.
I love Frieza. Frieza's my favorite.
He's so creepy and awful, but he's so delightfully creepy and awful. You know, so it's like, I don't know if I want to murder him or go have a beer with him. You know? Like, do I want to just make this guy go away, or do I want to understand what he's thinking? And I'm not sure yet. So Frieza would definitely be up there. And do you know what? I'm going to go with a kind of side character, and I really like Arale. I haven't seen any of the Arale show, but I really, really, really like Arale, and I think that whole episode they had in Super, where it was just kind of a side, I thought that was super cute, so I'm like, and then I'd have to say that Jocko would get honorable mention, because I think Todd is hilarious as that little goober. Todd is the best of goobers, because Todd is a goober. Thank you so much. Hey, how are you?
Doing good. My name is Trace. This is, I'm not sure if I'm familiar with your work because well, this is still the greatest day of my life. Okay, you were talking about gender equality earlier, and I was just curious if it kind of frustrates you that sometimes women are undercredited because a lot of females do male roles, such as, and like, I figuratively bet you didn't know that the same voice actress for Ben 10 is the same name as Timmy Turner.
I would be surprised.
Or that the same voice actress for Chopper is the same, Japanese, is the same name for Pikachu.
Oh, well that makes sense. Chopper and Pikachu are very cute.
No, you can't unhear that, so yeah, expect it.
I think that, for the most part, you know, like I know at Funimation, we try to let the dudes do some of the younger voices, at least to a point. Like once you get to like 10 years old, Jason Liebert might be the only person who can, like, guy that can very convincingly play a small boy. If you guys have heard him as Shauron and how Cardcaptor Sakura at Clear Card, it's ridiculous. I'm like, how do you sound like a preteen boy? But he's the only one. Everybody else is so deep. But I think it's cool that, you know, sometimes we have guys that play ladies, and sometimes we have ladies that play dudes. And I think that's one thing that's great about voice acting, is you're not confined by what you look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, one other thing. I noticed how you said you like psychotic characters, and I hope you get a role in the upcoming, Funimation dub of the One Piece whole cake arc, since, you know, there's a few chances there.
Maybe, thank you. Maybe. Although I'm already like 3 people in One Piece. It's already like, where's Waldo with me?
You play Evil Correct in Kokoro Connect?
Yes! Oh my gosh!
I was wondering how, like, with the switching places aspect of the game.
That was so cool.
I was wondering how difficult that might have been, like, switching kind of between characters, even though you were playing the same characters.
That's super cool. Has anybody seen Kokoro Connect? Oh good, there's a few of you. Okay, it's a really great show that nobody's seen, so I was like...
I think it was the first anime I actually ever watched.
Seriously? Yeah. That's a good one.
Somehow happened.
Yeah, it's super good. But there's this weird little scene, and this isn't a spoiler or anything, where some of the characters like switch bodies, basically. So even though you're still in your character's body, you're having to pretend to be the other actor, which is crazy when you think about it. I lucked out though, because the one that I did the most mimicking of was Greg Ayres. And Greg Ayres is one of my best friends. So it was like, I wonder if I can pick up on Greg's mannerisms. I've known him since I was 16, I bet I can. And he had a blast too. And then of course Clint Bickham was in it as well, and I've known Clint for ages. So that's what's good when you know the people that you work with closely and you have like chemistry and relationships with them, because then you can kind of hear their voice in your head. I think that's one of the reasons that Lucy Christian and I work so well together, because we worked together for years, and I can hear Lucy in my head. So anytime I'm delivering a line, even though she's not there, I can hear how she's going to deliver her line, and vice versa with her. So when we're put together, it sounds like we're in the same room together, and nobody would question it. But yeah, all of that was just luck of the draw and knowing the people opposite me so closely so that I was able to pick up on them. Otherwise, if it had been somebody I didn't know, I would have made a definite effort to like go to lunch or something and be like, okay, what's your acting style? Let's get all actory and find out. But because it was Greg, I was like, oh, I got this. Thank you. Hello.
So I know you talked a little bit about the vocal hygiene part of your job already, but I was wondering if there was ever a part in your career where you actually had a vocal injury that you had to really rehabilitate.
Good question. I have yet to have a vocal injury. Knocking on this better be wood. If not, I will knock on the way out. Just in case. Just in case. I think because my voice is so weird, I don't know why my voice is so weird, but I would assume that either something went wrong somewhere, you know, or something went right somewhere, who knows? But I can scream and shout for long periods of time without doing a whole lot of damage, which is, you know, a really great skill to have in my line of work. That being said, I have lost my voice before, you know, just from like being sick or whatever. And I remember when we were recording the original Full Metal Panic, like way back in the day, I got really, really sick. But I was one of those people, I'm like, I'm still gonna go to work and I'm still gonna be a good voice actor. So I went in, and I'm like, I'm ready to record. And they're like, what are you doing here? I can still do it. And they're like, no, you can't even talk, go home. And that's when I realized, like, oh, they totally are okay rescheduling you as long as, you know, you let them know and communicate and all that. But yeah, luckily, no. I have had, it's funny going to conventions though, because a lot of people who are doctors, like usually ENTs, ear, nose, and throat doctors, will come through and they'll be like, how do you do it? And I'm like, I don't know, I think I'm a freak. I just try to drink a lot of water and not hurt myself and hope that everything's okay. But I'm worried about Austin because I think he might have some nodes that he's going to deal with, and I know that Rico Fajardo had surgery a couple years ago. So I've been very big on telling, especially aspiring voice actors, like, be careful, because node surgery is not fun and it takes 8 weeks to recover. And that's boo-boo. because that means you can't work. But yeah, luckily not yet. Hello, how are you? Good.
He's not sure if you can answer this, but are you able to say a few characters that you have auditioned for but you haven't gotten?
Oh, good question. Umaru time. I auditioned for it, but it's okay because it went to Emily Neves and she's freaking amazing. Also because I knew that Umaru was going to be kind of close to Tomoko and Watamote, I was like, I'll go ahead and audition anyway. We don't do auditions as much as we used to, but back in the day when we did audition, I was very lucky that I was on a string of shows where I did my research and I was like, I want that character. And then I went in and killed it and got that character, so much so that I stopped finding a specific character because I'm like, I'm gonna ruin it. I'm gonna ruin it one day and I'm not gonna get the character and I'm gonna be so upset. So I usually now just go in with an open mind. So I don't know, that's the other thing too, is we don't usually know about the characters that we didn't get. Like, they don't tell us. Now there are times, like when I auditioned for Fairy Tale, I went in and auditioned for, like, you know, the main ones, Lucy, Urza. Actually, no, I didn't audition for Fairy Tale. He just called me in and was like, you're Mary Jane. I'm like, oh, sweet. But like, usually when you go in, like for Black Butler, I auditioned for Lizzie, I auditioned for Madame Red, I auditioned for a bunch of different things, and ended up playing Mayrin, which is the one I wanted, but I wouldn't have found out if I was even on the table for the others.
I don't think Mayrin would sound as good with any other person who's acting her anyway.
Why, thank you so much! You guys are going to make me cry, yes you are! I love her so much, and I've always been, and this is a good note for anybody who is an aspiring voice actor, you know, when you're in training, people always tell you, like, it's better to go big and have your director pull you back, right? Because if you're too small, it's really hard for a director to be like, louder, bigger, give me more energy. So my whole career has been like going in there gangbusters and like turning the dial up to 11, and then having the director go, okay, maybe turn it down a little. And that was the first time that I went into 11 and they were like, make it 12. I was like, all right. But yeah, she's super fun. But yeah, I can't think of any off the top of my head, like big ones. I was very upset when I found out that Sailor Moon was coming back and I went to LA. I love everybody who's in it though, so all of my friends are in it, so I can't be too upset, but I'm like, that would have been fun. Are you in Sailor Moon? I'm into it. Oh, you're into it. I like it. Thank you so much. I'm into it too. Hello.
I just wanted to ask about your experience recording ghost stories.
Because I don't try not to spit my water out. What is hilarious to me about ghost stories is that it was one of those things that we kind of did for us. Like, we didn't think anybody was ever going to watch it. We're like, whatever, this will be fun, let's do something crazy. And now I can't go to a convention in the world without somebody asking me about ghost stories. I went to my first convention in Australia like 4 or 5 years ago. The very first question is, can you tell us about ghost stories? And I went, in Australia? Sure! So it's crazy to me because when that show came out, so for those of you that don't know what Ghost Stories is there anybody that doesn't know what Ghost Stories is? Oh good, there's a few of you. So Ghost Stories was a show that did not do well in Japan. It's not that it was a bad anime, it just wasn't life-changing, right? So they pulled it off the shelves, which is very rare for Japan to do. So ADV acquired the license, probably through a deal, you know, where they get some big A title and then they send a whole bunch of other titles and like, please just do something with this. And that was one of them, and the Japanese company was like, we don't want to go under, so do whatever you want with it, just make it sell. And ADV was like, okay. So the director, Stephen Foster, was like, I tell you what, we're going to keep the names of the characters, and that's it. So, like, my character in the show is this kind of prophetic, kind of ethereal, hair in the wind, kind of like, oh, listful. So we turned her into a board-again Betty. Right? So everything is about, have you accepted Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior? The born-again Christian, then of course the little boy with the glasses right next to her had to be the Jewish boy so that they could fight. And then the boy next door that was kind of the finger guns kind of guy turned into the perv. And then the poor little brother who had very strange lip flaps, just, he's special. I will tell you this, it was offensive in 2004. We call it the equal opportunity offender. It doesn't matter who you are, what race you are, what religion you are, it doesn't matter, it will offend you. So if you don't like to be offended, I do not suggest checking out ghost stories. If you have a sense of humor, like, whatever, check it out. It may not be your cup of tea, check it out.
They showed it at 10 a.m. yesterday.
Do what?
They had it on yesterday morning.
Yesterday morning?
Yeah.
I can maybe see tomorrow morning just for Momoko, but like, maybe. But it was super fun, and it's probably the only time that's ever going to happen that we get to completely improvise a show like that. It's also the most, this is going to sound awful. It's not that I'm not, this is going to get into TMI, but I'm agnostic. So I'm not incredibly religious because I grew up with half Southern Baptist and half Roman Catholic. That's a mess. That is a mess. So for me, it was very strange because even though I went to Sunday school as a kid and all that, I can't just recite scripture. Like, that's just not something I've ever been able to do. So we had a Bible in the studio that I would sit on break and read, and I'll never forget there was one day where Chris Patton was walking down the hallway and he just glanced in the studio and I had a Bible and I just had my nose in it. And he walked by and then I saw he's like, do you have a problem? He goes, I'm just waiting to see when the lightning's gonna strike. And there was one period where Stephen was like, oh hey, I think it'd be really funny if in this part, you know, you said the Lord's Prayer, or I forget what it was, or some scripture, and I'm like, oh okay. We get to that part and I'm like, how's it go? He was like, oh my God, you're a heathen. I was like, I never said I wasn't. You're the one that cast me. And I was like, how's it going? He goes, you know, as I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I was like, I take a look at my life and realize all the I said, did you just Coolio me? I'm like, I honestly didn't know that was scripture. So yeah, we've had lots of really great moments, but when it came out, we got death threats, we got bomb threats to the studio. People hated us because it was the very beginning of DVD. People didn't understand that, hey, you can watch the sub, and it's the original Ghost Story sub, or you get this awesome, crazy new dub. We were like, hey, we're giving you twice as much for your money. And everybody's like, oh, you ruined it. And I'm like, but okay. So much so that we went to Otakon that year, and Greg Ayers and I were there to introduce Ghost Stories, and everybody tried to boo us off stage. Wrong people to try to boo off stage, because we were like, have fun, you still have to watch it. And it's funny because now I've had people come up and like, I was at that first Otakon and I feel so bad because, oh my God, that show's huge now. And I'm like, you never know. A perfect example, like if there's ever like a show that you might think, oh, we're just doing this for us, be careful. Because someday everybody will watch it. I think somebody, even Christian Slater, went to his first convention last year or 2 years ago, and somebody actually paid Christian Slater to sign a copy of Ghost Stories. I was like, I'm sorry, Mr. Slater! This was back before he made his big comeback, so there's a lot of like, poor Christian Slater not having any work jokes. It's a little dated. But thank you so much. Good question. Hello! I'm jealous of your fuzzy slippers right now.
Just go to Target, that's where I got them.
Love Target.
So, since we got a lot of questions of, actual importance, I'm just going to ask you a goofy one.
Okay, go for it.
All the characters you have played. Put on an island, battle royale scenario. First one out, last couple alive, ultimate winner. Yes, I know it's a lot.
It's like 575 people just went, hey, pick me, pick me, pick me in my head. I'm like, ah! Okay, so you said who's gonna, okay, give me my rundown again.
Okay, first one knocked out. The last few survivors, top competitives, ultimate winner.
The first one who's gonna get knocked out is gonna be Hello Kitty, let's be real. Somebody's gonna come try to murder Hello Kitty, she'll be like, do you wanna be my friend? And they're gonna be like, bah! Sorry, Kitty. She's out. The ones that I think would make it the farthest would be Belarus from Hetalia. Michiko from Michiko and Hatchin. Bulma, she would find a way. She'll talk her way out if she has to, but she will find a way. Suyu, she's a hero. I feel like she wouldn't be mean to anybody, but I feel like she'd be able to survive, even if it's just like swinging from her tongue just to get away from people. Kirika Yumura from Noir. She's an assassin. She would probably make it pretty far. And Kaino from Assassination Classroom. She, I won't tell you too much about that. Oh, and Shiro from Dead Man Wonderland. I play a lot of really psychotic killers. Oh God, Tanya. Tanya would be the winner. Tanya would be the number one. Like, cause she's, if you guys haven't seen the Saga of Tanya the Evil, it's one of my favorite shows ever because it turns everything on its head. So basically you find out that you find yourself rooting for the bad guy, right? And it's awful because because it's our history and you're like, that's not who I should be rooting for. But I want her to win. But she's so manipulative and conniving, she would 100%. Plus she's got magic. Ooh, and Mira Jane. Ooh, Tanya versus Mira Jane would be a fight. Now I need to find animators. Like, can you make this happen? There we go. Thank you. Good question. Hello. I like your mask. I have one of those too.
I wanted to know, have you ever fangirl meeting someone for voice acting?
100%. Like actual other voice actors or just fangirling in general? In general. Oh my gosh, yes, I fangirl all the time. So I used to be really big into metal music. So I got to meet Wayne Static from a band called Static X way back in the day. I got to meet Spider from Power Man 5000 back in the day. Like all of these guys that I really looked up to. But recently, and I told this story earlier, so if you heard it, please just bear with me. Recently I went to Rhode Island Comic Con and I didn't realize that my convention agent also reps Kiefer Sutherland and Jason Patrick. And I'm a huge Lost Boys fan. Huge. So I'm sitting at dinner with Brittany Karbowski and we're chilling, everything's all cool, and then in walks Kiefer Sutherland and Jason Patrick, and I'm like, huh? And Kiefer Sutherland is such a nice guy. He walked around the table and introduced himself to everybody. He's like, hello, I'm Kiefer Sutherland, and all I can say is, I know! Like, Monica, what are you doing? But it was, I totally fangirled. I tried to keep it cool, but Brittany even, I love Karbowski, I've known her forever. She's like, wow, you're red. I'm like, shut up, Brittany! Shh, I'm trying to be cool here. But yeah, I definitely geeked out Barbie. And every once in a while I still do. I'll see people from afar and I'm too afraid to go say hi. We're trying to get through everybody. Hello. Hey, yeah. Thank you for telling me. You guys in your cosplay always throw me off. She was like, how's the Deku from yesterday? I'm like, oh, thank you for letting me know. What's your question?
What are your 3 favorite Black Butler characters?
Besides Mayray.
Yeah.
My 3 favorite Black Butler characters. Okay, one's gonna have to be Grell, even though he wants my man. Step right off. But he is a fantastic character. I'm gonna go with, I like Finny. I feel like we don't know enough about Finny, and I'd really love to know more of his backstory, because what a weird little kid. I love him, but what a weird little kid. And I feel like I have to go with Sebastian, because I love Sebastian. I would be wrong if I didn't say Sebastian. So Sebastian. Also, I love Tatum, so.
Yes.
Thank you. Hello.
So my question is, what are your top 3 Assassination Classroom characters?
Besides Kaiden?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go with my boy Nagisa, right? Because I spent a lot of time talking to him. I'm gonna go with Karma. Don't tell Austin. We don't need him to know that any favorite characters of his. Okay. Karma, because I think Austin's so good for being such a nice guy. He's so good at playing the douchebags. You know what I mean? Like, how are you so good at playing like these smarmy guys? And I'm like, you're so nice, but he is so good at it. And then I'm gonna go with Koro Sensei. Because Koro Sensei is like the heart of the show, and I'm not gonna spoil anything, but if you guys have seen that last episode, it's so apparent how much everybody cares about Koro Sensei, and so to me, that is such a pivotal character in the show, and it wouldn't be the same without him. So I'm talented. Thank you. Hello! What's your question?
My question is about when you were on Snow White with the red hair.
What else? What?
On Snow White with the red hair.
Oh, yes! Yes!
What was it like getting to play a villain, and did you have to do anything special to get into that like villain mindset?
It was awesome. So if you guys have seen Snow White with the red hair, I play Umi Heavy. She sounds nothing like me.
She is a pirate, and so she's really low and kind of brash and awesome.
And she was one of the first ones, because I finally went to everybody at Funimation and I was like, hey, you guys, I want to be challenged. Find me things that I don't normally do. Find me some weird stuff. And so this crazy, loud, obnoxious pirate came up, and Chris George was like, Monica! All right, sweet. So I had a blast playing her. It was so much fun, and what a great cast, and what a great show. But now I'm playing Marileona in Black Clover, and so I feel like Umi Hebi was me practicing to play Marileona, you know what I mean? Even though they're two totally different characters, they have a lot of that same kind of like low, gruff kind of quality to them. So I really enjoyed it. Plus, who doesn't like being the bad guy? Yeah, even though the bad guy doesn't think they're the bad guy, it's still a lot of fun.
Always have more fun.
Yes! Other than Mary Jane, okay. God, there's so many characters. And I adapted like for the first 4 years, I adapted fairy tales, so I watched like all of the first like 100 episodes like 10 times. It was awesome, but I know so much. Okay, so the ones that I enjoy might be a little different just because like I enjoyed adapting for them. So like an example of that is Monsieur Soul was one of my favorite characters in Fairy Tail to adapt. He's the one that does all the French. He was part of the 4 that Julia came from. Elemental 4. He was one of my favorites because he was so much fun to write for. I love Zeref because he's such a weird anti-villain hero. We're not sure what to make of him. And as far as the main cast goes, I'm partial to Gray. And I think it's because his arc was that Deliora arc really fast in the beginning. And so he was the first character that I cried for. Like when I was adapting and I watched that, I cried for him and I was like, that's such a great story. So he's cool. Thank you. Uh-oh, it's a villain, y'all. It's a villain. Hello.
This is a really simple question, but what's the fun to play a Sherpa?
Oh my gosh, I just got goosebumps. Yes, nobody ever asks me about Golden Kamuy. It's so good. And that's why it took me a moment. I was like, Sherpa, are you really asking about it? I love Golden Kamuy and I love a Sherpa. In the beginning, it was so cool because I had to study the Ainu language. So I've done some studying on this indigenous language and it's super, super cool. And I feel like I've learned way more. I had no idea. I knew who the Ainu were, but not to the extent. So not only have I done that, but the story in itself is so much fun. And season 2 just gets crazy. And Dick Sensei is one of my favorite things ever. Every time he'd pop up, I'm like, Dick Sensei! And it's savage. But yes, I love that show. We were still talking about doing extra features and stuff for like the discs and stuff. Because Ian and I are like, hey, let's go camping and make Inman wear a giant bear costume. Bah, the director. So who knows, we might in the future. Thank you. Come on up. Hello, Nagisa. I promise I won't kiss you this time.
I just wanted to ask you, what was your favorite part of working on Assassination Classroom?
My favorite part of working on Assassination Classroom is the part I can't really talk about because people in the audience who haven't seen it yet will be angry with me. But I kept going the whole first season. I was like, wow, for somebody who doesn't like do a whole lot, I'm sure in this show a lot. Like, this is awesome. I love love her. She's super cute. What's going on? And at the end of season 1, the director told me like, hey, we don't know if this is gonna happen, if we're gonna get to season 2, but if so, some stuff goes bad. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then so when season 2 came and it started that, I was like, so yeah, I can't tell you. You got it. That's fine. Hello, Medusa. You look awesome. Which? Yes, hey.
I wanted to ask you who your favorite characters in Hardcaptor Sakura.
Besides
Sakura.
Well, of course I'm going to say Shaoran, because he's my Shaoran. Shaoran, Caro, because Michaela, especially as Caro, is just ridiculously cute. It makes me want to vomit. That's apparently my reaction to cute things. And then, oh my gosh. There's so many good characters. I'm going to go with Tomoyo, just because her outfits are so sweet, and I love her little relationship. They're super cute. Thank you, Mike. Of course. Hello.
What are your thoughts on Hikaru and Kaoru and Nora?
I love them.
Right?
So Hikaru and Kaoru were so much fun to write for because they're just fun to write for. But at the time, I would put in all of these little things for the fans to catch. One of my favorite things that ever happened is I was looking on the internet, people were talking about Hikaru and Kaoru, and they were talking about the sports episode. And they were like, I don't understand, like one of them said that they were the pitcher and the other one said they were the catcher, like, but it wasn't even like that. And I went, oh, you guys will get that in about 5 years. That's a joke that wasn't meant for the 10-year-olds in the audience. And sure enough, I had many girls come up to me and go, holy crap, that line is so funny. I had no idea what that meant. And I'm like, but yeah, I had so much fun writing for them. And then it was super fun to watch because Greg loved making Todd squirm. So Greg would like be really over so that Todd would get the booth and be like, why is he being so weird? So it was a lot of fun to listen to them record. They were my favorite. Hello!
So if you could pick 2 characters that you voice and make them into one character, who would they be?
Oh, if I could take 2 characters that I voiced and turn them into one character, who would it be? This is going to tell you a lot about me as a person. I don't know if that's good. One of them is going to have to be Stocking. Because you're talking about a gothy, kind of gothy girl who loves sweets, then you're looking at her. And gosh, who would merge with Stocking? Like if Stocking were to do the fusion dance with someone, Tanya, that would make for an interesting show. I'm gonna say, yeah, Tanya, Stocking and Hello Kitty. She'd be like, hello, wanna be my friend? I hate you. Give me some sugar. Oh my gosh, that'd be the craziest show ever. No kid could ever watch it. I wanna be friends with you, Daniel. I hate you. That'd be awful. I'm gonna say Stocking. Oh, this is harder than I thought. Stocking and Volma. I know that's a weird one, but go with me. So Volma's got the sass, right? She's got the confidence. She's not afraid to stand up to anyone. Stocking's got the sass also, so that's gonna be one sassy lady. But she's also got like the comedy and the wit. So I feel like if those 2 combined, they could take over the world. And we would all have chocolate, and all of the dishes would be done.